Welcome everyone to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara, and we are going to talk about Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 4. It's called Watcher. So full spoilers for the episode as always. I was hoping for Rupert Giles, of course, but alas, that's not what we got this episode.
Who?
From the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, he's Buffy's Watcher, see? That was the joke. It was.
It's a Buffy thing.
Yes. Well, I'm just. It's sometimes they give me a little softball, a little easy to hit one, and I gotta take it. So yeah, I mean, basically, this episode follows on from everything last episode did. I think I would probably come down on this being like not bad, but probably a little weaker again. Like, so episode 2 is kind of been the high point of the season, and then I thought 3 was a little weaker, and then this I think is a little bit weaker again.
I thought actually, the last episode was pretty good. It was probably my most excited episode, just because of the Borg Queen stuff.
Oh sure, I mean I wasn't super down on it by any means, but just comparison to episode 2, I like 2 a bit more. Right, this one still has some of the stuff I'm enjoying about the season, but it has some. I don't want to quite say red flags necessarily, but there's definitely some things I could see upsetting me later. And I think there's a reveal at the end that just kind of made me roll my eyes and go, "What is this? Like, what is the explanation for this going to be that doesn't annoy me?"
Oh, I see.
I'm not convinced there will be one, and I'm also starting to get really worried that they keep sort of showing Picard having like these like memories of his mother before she was like seemingly taken or something, and I'm like, see if she shows up as a Borg by the end of the season, I am going to be so pissed.
The first episode, the Borg Queen, if that is who she is, on the
if that's her real name,
ship. Well, we don't see her face.
Yes,
she does say her line, like "Look up, Picard" or something, right?
Yeah. There's some intentional parallels with his mother's dialogue. Yeah,
but I definitely don't think that's going to be her.
Do you think it's going to be Picard's mother instead?
No. I mean, like, I don't think it's going to be his mom.
No. All right, no. I thought you meant the Borg Queen. Okay.
Yeah.
I honestly think that'll be her. Although now you've said it, I'm worried it will be because it's.
No, I think there's like a red herring. I don't think it's going to be his mom.
Well, it's not because I think it's a good idea. I clearly don't. I hate it. I'm worried because I feel like Discovery has pulled a few of these twists. Yeah, we all remember like who's the angel. Oh, I bet it's Michael. Oh, it's Michael's mom. Okay, it's not much better.
Oh, it's Michael.
It's kind of Michael. With this, like I don't know if Picard necessarily did something like that in season 1. Although there's a lot of things I didn't like in season 1. But I'm getting a little bit worried that there's going to be some kind of twist that I'm really going to not like as we're going. And with Irish Romulan lady showing up at the end of this episode, although not as a Romulan seemingly. Or maybe she's a Romulan in disguise.
Yeah, do you think that was just part of Q's like fiddling?
It could be part of Q's fiddling. I mean, that's possible. There's not really a lot to go on because he just sees her. She turns around. It's hard to even tell if she recognizes him in the moment or anything like that, or if she is just like a person in the past that happens to look like her. And if that's the case, then why? What's going on? I don't know, because Picard. So I guess we'll start with that plotline. Picard goes to the coordinates that they think they've deciphered from the Borg Queen. Jurati keeps pulling the number 15 out of her ass at random when they're talking about things, and it leads them to 10 forward. Not on the ship, of course, traditionally, but the bar that Guinan has in the city. And we have a young Guinan. And I think what's really funny about this, when I saw the young actress playing Guinan, is like, we talked about this like in episode 1 or 2 when we saw her. We said it's kind of, you can't really show young Guinan because she's supposed to have not aged in so long. So it's kind of weird if you show a different actress playing young Guinan.
I don't think we discussed whether they would recast her or anything like that, which I'm totally fine with. So I definitely don't have a problem with that.
I feel like we kind of did. I mean, we didn't really talk about like if they would or not necessarily, but I distinctly remember saying that because of Guinan's whole thing being she's not supposed to age that much, and they had to explain why she's aged between Next Generation and this show, that it would be weird for them to cast someone. I'm distracted because Tara's dog's making a lot of noise.
I know, sorry. She's a senior dog. She coughs a lot.
If I remember, I'll mute it so it's not distracting to the audience, but I feel like I have to point out why I'm hesitating.
She seems to be okay now.
Yeah, so I just thought there was anything wrong with the actor. The actress seems fine. Like, they're giving us like a sort of more young, badass Guinan who doesn't trust Picard.
Well, she's definitely a young, frustrated Guinan, because we see Guinan in the past on Earth in an episode of Next Generation. So it is consistent that she would be there and in America. I don't know why they have to do like her bars also called 10 forward, because, you know, it just seemed like, oh, it was like the 10th deck forward section.
Yeah,
so
I
it seemed awfully convenient.
Yeah, I assumed that the name of 10 forward was not a choice. It was just that's where it is on the ship.
That's the room.
Yeah, and it's the same here. It's Forward Avenue, and it's number 10 on Forward Avenue.
It's awfully serendipitous, if that's the case.
It's honestly a little eye rolly. Like, it feels kind of like when they make a prequel to something and they have to show her in the foreshadowing of like things you're going to know. Well, it's the thing,
like if she has a bar in the future after being on the D, then like that makes sense that she would call it 10 forward. Like, you know, this is the thing, this is her bar name, she's taking it with her. But to have it before she goes on a ship, on the 10th deck forward section.
Well, I think the obvious question here is this again Q meddling? Is this Q putting in like a sign for Picard to say, hey?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But that's the thing, I'm trying to remember, in episode 1 when he goes to see her at the same bar, did we see the street name then? Was it called Forward then?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't remember noticing, so I don't actually know. I'd have to go back and check, but yeah, so that was a bit eye-rolly. I was kind of like, okay. But I mean, if it is just Q kind of like putting in intentional breadcrumbs for Picard, because he wants Picard to like solve the problem, because it's all a test of some kind, then okay, I guess. But we get like did you get like a Matrix Reloaded kind of vibe from some of the later stuff with the Picard plot?
From the car?
Yeah.
The car chase?
No, not the car chase. The like Picard like being taken to see this like
the architect.
The architect, yeah, and like talking through the various people. Like I was getting like a Matrix sequel kind of feeling from this.
I suppose I didn't mind it. I thought the little girl actress was just awful though. She was so bad.
Yeah, and then this ended, of course, with it leading like the being is jumping from body to body until it leads to Irish
Lady.
Lady.
I like that idea of it, that it's the Watcher is able to stay hidden because it just sort of takes over people. Yeah,
which is just fine. I have to admit, I'm still very much in this camp of Picard's plot in this show. This season is the weakest part of the story. Mainly because I think all of his stuff is the stuff that feels really tropey and gimmicky versus the other. Because I think the other stuff is like, it's really easy to get your head around the obstacles that are coming up in front of the other characters. Like, they're being presented to be these things where it's kind of fun because they're these present day ideas that we understand, that they are fish out of waters with because they're from the future.
Exactly, yeah.
And they're interacting with them, and
it's exciting.
We
already know the characters, and those scenes are more fun.
It's just working more for me. Whereas the Picard stuff, by and large, it feels like he's stumbling around talking to people. Whether it was Borg Queen and Jurati last episode or this episode, it's Guinan. And
I thought it was a bit strange that he had basically the same line 3 times, where he goes, "What do you mean by this? What do you mean by that? What do you mean by this other thing?"
Yeah. It kind of feels like it's drawing out what's happening, and I kind of like the thematic idea of Guinan not wanting to be involved and Picard having to convince her that she should care, that there is hope for this like planet and the people on it, and having to like essentially Picard's speech hope into her. I think that's actually a really nice idea. I just don't think
really
the
like
episodes...
the line too. where he says like change always comes much later than we think it should. I'm like, oh,
no, that's a good line.
That's a good line, and that's a very Picard thing to say.
But I don't think the episode accomplishes like what I'm talking about, though. I don't think I actually get the Picard speech that convinces her, or feel like he does actually inspire anything in her. Like,
well, I mean, it's not till he says who he is that seems to trigger something in her brain, where she's like, "That's a name that I know, and now I know I can take you to this person."
Yeah, that's not satisfying though.
Well, okay.
No, but it's not. There's nothing earned there for the audience. It's just a plot convenience that she has this thing where she does kind of have like feelings from the future because of her species.
It's either, well, you haven't seen the episode yet, but like Picard does see her in the past, like on Earth. He meets Guinan before in an episode of Trek. And she's like walking with Mark Twain and stuff. And so I assume like maybe when he says the name, she's able to recognize the name and put the face together and be like, okay, now I know at least that he's not, full of BS.
I thought it was, I mean, you're probably right because I've not seen that episode, but like they specifically pointed out that she feels these feelings because like it calls it something in the episode, like some sort of time thing with her species where she like feels like a connection to her future self or something. I can't remember the exact description, but none of this matters to me though, because like the problem I have is that it felt like it was setting up this core thing where she's lost hope, she doesn't care about what's going on, and another character has to convince her to believe in trying to make a change and believing that they can do something about it. That's a really simple concept that lots of stories use, and it's a good concept. That's why lots of stories do use it. But I don't think the Picard in this episode convinces her for anything. It's just this recognition of his name, and I don't find that very satisfying because there's no arc to it. There's no convincing her, and especially with a character like Jean-Luc Picard, whose core thing, and the reason why he's such a good character, is because over the course of the Next Generation, he constantly had good scenes and speeches and monologues of convincing people, of inspiring people. And I feel like here he doesn't inspire, he doesn't really do anything, he just kind of, okay, there's like a sort of shortcut for her to kind of trust them, and that's where they get to this. I felt like there was potential here for there to be a good Picard moment of him inspiring a little bit of hope in her, of like being Picard and it working and earning her a little bit of trust from her just purely by being himself.
The arc might not be in the episode. Like it may be something that we see at the end of the season.
Sure, but individual parts of a story can still have arcs for the episode. Like I'm not, when I say arc, I don't mean.
Yeah, he does convince her to stay. It seems by the end of it, by the end of their interaction, like don't give up on humanity. You should stay, and they still have time to change, and it comes much later than you think, and all that stuff. So it seems like she's not going to leave Earth, at least.
Sure. I don't think there's enough of a story here in their plot in this episode. It's just kind of mostly stalling until she agrees to take him to the potential watcher, and then that gives us a cliffhanger at the end of the episode. This felt like clunky writing to me. It didn't have like its own value in the episode itself.
Okay.
Unlike good episodes of Star Trek, which do have their own story arcs in each plot, that have... it can still have a continuation afterwards, but you still feel like you've gotten a piece of the story because there has been a character change. That's also the design
of those older Star Treks, is because they were meant to be played in syndication, so everything had to wrap up at the end.
But I'm not talking about just Star Trek, though. I'm talking about other serialized shows that have good episodes where characters feel like they've went through a change. But you specifically
brought up other Star Treks.
Yes, because I was specifically talking about good episodes of Star Trek.
Yes.
Oh dear. Look, I don't think this Picard story so far is that well written. Okay,
I don't know, like honestly I think this is one of the best new seasons of Trek that we've had so far, and I mean with the limited sample size that we have of it, and also like every time an episode of Picard ends I'm like, oh, but I want more. Like, why is it ending now?
Well, there's good stuff in the episode, there's good stuff in the season. There's a reason why I've been more positive on it by and large up until this point. But I do think this might... I don't know if it's weaker than the first episode, but it's definitely the weakest of, like, since we time travelled. Or shifted to the alternate universe, at least.
All right.
I don't feel like there was much actually in the plot. I don't feel like there's any real moment to latch on to really care about this friendship between them, which is really weird because it's kind of built in and should already be pre-existing, but it feels kind of forced. So
yeah, well, Guinan has a line in one of the episodes of Next Generation when she's talking to Geordi about how she likes bald men because the bald man was kind to her once. Maybe this is that story. Maybe this will happen. Maybe this will continue.
Look, I appreciate that it may enhance things in this if there is kind of callbacks to previous like Trek. I don't think it solves any of the core writing problems though, just because it ties into something that happened on an old episode.
Well, I mean, fine, I get it. You hate it, but I'm having a really good time with it, and like I appreciate that his story is a bit more, slowed down at least because we get so much more exciting stuff with the younger characters who are able to move faster.
It's not about being slow. Slow's fine. It's just unfulfilling so far.
Yeah.
And it's been more unfulfilling as it's went because it kind of feels like just a rabbit hole that he's going down of other different concepts they're throwing at it. Whereas everything else, they've set up obstacles, the characters are trying to solve those obstacles, and we can kind of see where it's going. And it's not like it doesn't have a point either. Like there's some clear commentary here on immigration with the ICE stuff and Rios and him sticking up for the other guy and they're having the heart to heart.
Even Guinan's whole thing is about like, we're watching the country and the planet be destroyed and nobody cares. Like there are people here who can do something about it, but they only care about having more and losing what they have, or that whole thing was a social commentary also.
Oh, yeah, I know, but I'm saying that the Rios plot has a plot and also has commentary, as opposed to just having the commentary.
Well, Picard's plot is about finding what's going on here, and like he's led to somebody that's familiar at least.
Yeah, so it's about finding what's going on, but that the journey of finding what's going on and finding this person is just a series of like plot tropes or plot conveniences. It's not because something we can understand makes sense that leads to the next logical step. It's this leads to Guinan. Guinan knows mysterious being who will know what he's talking about, which leads to ancestor of Romulan Irish lady or something.
I doubt she's an ancestor, but
I don't know. We had a Romulan in season 1 pretending to be human in Starfleet, so maybe she's still Romulan just with some fake ears on. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
it's possible.
Maybe.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I enjoyed Seven and Rafi's hijinks with the police car and them fighting about what they're doing, and Jurati trying to get the teleporter to work, before they get arrested, and the police who stopped the car afterwards just sort of thinking of like hit their heads or something because they've seemingly disappeared. There's some nice moments peppered throughout some of that stuff. And I think part of the reason why that stuff is working better is because it has been kept relatively simple and it's just functioning as it is. And this is not me saying that I want Trek to be dumbed down and just an action show. In fact, my complaint with all modern Trek is that it's trying too hard to constantly be an action show. But I think with this, them interacting with the present day is just fun hijinks, much like the best Star Trek movie, The Voyage Home. Just in fact, I thought it was kind of weird how there was a guy in a bus who was like he was from 1986.
So presumably the same guy too, because he like reaches for his throat when Seven tells him to turn it down.
Yeah. Apparently he's just he's kept the same,
look.
Yeah, he's kept the same style for the past 40 years almost.
Hey, if it ain't broke. I think it's the same song.
It probably is. It's been a while since I watched it, but I mean, it probably is.
Yeah, definitely just a nod to what they know they're doing, which is the voyage home.
Yes.
In a season of Star Trek.
Yeah, and part of the reason why the voyage home works so well outside of the fish out of water stuff is, again, there's a clear goal that the characters are trying to solve, which is we need something that exists in this time, and we understand where they would get that and all the complications to some extent of like what getting to that. In this case, it was Wales, like try to get to the whales.
Captain, there be whales here.
Like, we understand, they'll be at this Sea World type place, and like there's going to be red tape, there's going to be people who try to stop them, there's going to be all these problems with getting to them. We understand all the caveats to that plan. Whereas here, everything Picard's doing is just, effectively the writers can just make up shit as they go along, because it's just this sort of like going down a rabbit hole, like I said, of just whatever is next is next. We don't really have much sense for it. So there's nothing to grasp onto.
As someone who drives around Southern California all day, it is really nice to see, like, or just to hear all the names of the places they're going and stuff. I mean, just for my job and stuff, I drive all over the place, including like a Castaic, which is where Rios is being held. So when they said that, and it's like an hour away from Los Angeles, I'm like, I knew that. I go there all the time.
It may as well be made up names for me. I didn't recognize the thing.
It was exciting.
What are you talking about? California and the LA area get used all the time in movies and TV.
Yeah, not Castaic. Castaic's like up the 5 in the mountains and stuff.
Aye, but
it's a very small city.
How often do you think I hear Scottish places that aren't Edinburgh or Glasgow mentioned? And
yeah, but like everywhere in Scotland is like walking distance, so
shut up.
It's just so small.
All right. You need a bigger state to fit your big heads. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I was just okay. I mean, I guess the other thing to mention is Jurati kind of makes a deal with the Borg Queen for the Borg Queen to help her fix some systems, and she'll be friendly with her because the Borg Queen's lonely.
Yeah, they know too much about each other now.
Yeah. So.
I like that she's still able to one up her at the end.
Oh sure, yeah. Elaborate on that.
Just that she's able to convince the Borg Queen to barter with her to put power to the transport system so that she can save her friends. And then the bargaining piece is that you're also lonely, Borg Queen, and during downtime we could just hang out and we could talk, share stories and stuff like that. And then as soon as the Borg Queen gives Jurati what she wants, she just walks away. It says, peace out. Also, I've limited your systems again. And pisses off the Borg Queen, who calls her Agnes. Everyone else calls her Jurati.
Yeah.
She's trying to be more personal with her.
I suspect this will only make the Borg Queen like her more, though, funnily enough.
Me too.
She'll be like, oh, that sly little minx. So.
Oh, yeah. The whole collective is going to be coming after Jurati at some point. Maybe they'll even go back in time and get her.
Oh dear. Yeah. So yeah, the episode ends. Rios is on the deportation bus. What I think's funny about this is that they don't actually know where he's from. They're just assuming that they're taking him to Mexico, presumably, but he hasn't actually indicated or said that that's where he's from.
I'm from Spain.
There's a lot of assumptions being made about where he's from just because he's got an Hispanic name.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I like also that the names are escaping me. Seven and
Raffi.
I like their little bickering, like their couples bickering, and like when she goes to open up the cop car, she just phasers the window so that it shatters, even though she totally could have just unlocked the door with her computer.
And she was also supposed to not even have a phaser with her, and went, oops,
yes.
Where did that come from? Just
yeah, Raffi's playing by her own rules, which the cops of Los Angeles should appreciate, I guess.
Something tells me they won't.
No.
Yeah, that's another Leah Thompson directed episode, by the way.
Yeah, she's back.
Yeah. Well, it's quite common with these cable and streaming shows for them to do 2 or 3 back to back. Like, instead of sprinkling the same directors and rotating, they tend to, like, it'll be like a director will do 2 or 3, and then a director will do the next 2 or 3, and so on. I don't know why they do it that way. I guess it's just easier.
It might be cost effective too, so you don't, keep them out for 2 weeks instead of flying them back home and then coming back for another week.
It depends, because I'm not sure. Because the reason why I assumed the reason why I used to assume that directors rotated in a TV show is because sometimes they'd be shooting multiple episodes at the same time. You know, like they'd have some of the cast doing a scene from the follow-up episode, and back and vice versa, in different sets, things like that. And typically speaking, I'd assume the director's still involved in post-production in some way, and sometimes not even sometimes, all times the post-production would be happening simultaneously to the shooting of another episode. So that's why I thought you'd rotate through. I guess the way they do these shows now, because they shoot them all before they release them as opposed to network TV, is that they just kind of like, oh, you'll do 3 episodes back to back, and it's a lot more like just doing a movie. It just happens to be 3 separate episodes. That's my assumption.
It's probably still in kind of a recent development, because I remember Frakes directing some of the episodes like pretty far apart from each other. Like he'll do one in the first half of the season, maybe one or 2 in the second half. Yeah,
I think Discovery still rotates, or at least from what I remember. But like, just this just being 2 Leah Thompsons in a row, I think that they seem to be doing that. But
I mean, it makes sense to me.
Because episode 2 was Douglas Aranioski. I butchered that name. And so was episode 1. So yeah, we've had two pairs so far. So we'll see what happens next time. There's no director listed yet for episode 5. No one will know until it comes out, apparently.
Maybe they just like Leah Thompson so much they just keep her.
Oh, maybe. We're doing a time travel story and you were in Back to the Future. That gives you credibility.
Until they go back to the future.
Yes. And then we go back to the other dude.
Aronofsky?
Was it Aronofsky? Although Aronofsky Star Trek does sound like an interesting proposition.
Yeah. I liked Rios' stuff when he's like talking to the doctor lady. They have nice chemistry together, kind of flirting. And then also he's just talking to some other guy who's getting deported in Spanish. And he's like saying they make you pledge allegiance to a flag. That's hardcore. Which is like pretty dumb.
Oh, sure.
As a foreigner who came to America and in middle school and had to like stand up and pledge allegiance to a flag every morning and like not having a clue as to what was going on, that was very strange.
Oh yeah, I think it's silly. Yeah, there's nothing about pledging allegiance to a flag that sounds like a reasonable, logical, or sensible thing to me.
Got to keep those patriots.
Yes. Yeah. So that's it. I don't really have anything else to add about the episode. It had some fun stuff, but I have some worrying signs of where the mystery part is going. Oh, we have to talk about the Q scene, I suppose. There's a Q scene at the end.
Yeah, there's a Q scene at the end where he's waxing poetically.
He's having some I'm trying to think of
performance anxiety.
I was trying to think of a word to replace erectile and erectile dysfunction, and I couldn't think of one.
Performance anxiety.
Yes, that's a more broad way of saying it that works. Yes. Because he tries to snap his fingers to like make this woman think something, and then he's like, oh dear, which is concerning because maybe when all this is over and he's supposed to put things back to normal for Picard, he's going to be like, about that, Jean-Luc, old buddy, old pal, I seem to be having some issues. I can't fix it anymore.
Yeah, he's got to keep the old look.
So yeah, but yeah, okay, it was all right. It was all right. But I have some legit concerns with some of this plot now.
We shall see. I'm still very into it and very excited.
Oh, we could tell.
Next.
We could tell.
Yeah.
You fought me on a lot of things.
That's what I'm here for.
Let me know. Well, let us know, rather, what you think of the episode in the comments below. Like and subscribe, ding the bell for notifications, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the content and everything we do, head over to patreon.com/mailedfuzztv for as little as $1 per month and help keep all the content coming. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?